Welcome to Film2Field Case Studies, where we sit down with players, coaches, and football professionals to break down the lessons, habits, and study processes that drive success on and off the field. In today's episode, we sit down with Kyle Taylor, a lifelong friend of mine and a sports agent at Prozone, the agency. Kyle, tell us about your football story and how you went from being a player to just a football guy, and then you went over to the agency and player representation world.
Well, first of all, appreciate you having me on, bro. Excited
You're
to
welcome, man.
be sitting down, chopping it up with you, and seeing you do exactly what you was talking about you was going to do. So that's super dope. So glad to be a part of it. But um, as far as my journey, Pittsburgh kid, so waking up, watching the Steelers play, and really developing a love for football from my mom's to my granddad, watching Steeler games, but then playing Pop Warner for Penn Hills. And then all the way up to high school, end up leaving Penn Hills and going to Sarah Catholic, played there. Won a Whitfield championship there for football and basketball, and a state title for hoops. And then went on to Seton Hill, so ended up going D2 right close to home out there in Greensburg. And actually, I came in as a running back, wasn't on scholarship or anything, was preferred walk on.
Yeah.
But came in as a running back, straight scout team dog. But when you talk about like those couple of years playing in college, I knew early on, like, okay, on the long term, like ball's gonna be done soon. You know what I mean? Like I got these a couple years of college, and that's gonna be it. And there had been nobody, one or two dudes who got tryouts from Seton Hill, and then a couple that went to CFL, but there wasn't necessarily a thought process of going pro, and I had already known about what an agent was. And it was at that point where I'm like, okay, I'm a junior in my undergrad. I'm a year and a half away from graduation. Like, let's really, lock it in. I was a special teams player. I was the safety at that point. Like, let's really lock it in, focus on graduating because I still had to get my master's. And did that, finished my undergrad, went and got my master's 2 years later, and tried to hit the ground running. You know what I mean? Like as far as interning with agents at that time, I was working a day job at UPS and did everything with them from finance to marketing to a little bit of sales. I really got to see how a Fortune 100 company, a global company, ran and operated. And I learned a lot of stuff there from, time management, relationships, and supervising people and things like that. But I was also kind of getting away from football and not doing as much stuff, just some internships and all of that. And actually, pandemic happens. I'm 2 years out of my grad degree now. And then I go ahead and get registered to be an NFL agent. You got to pay some dues. You got to register. They run a whole background check. If you pass that, pay a little bit more money, and then you take a test. Only offered once a year in July. And it was cool because prior to the pandemic, the NFLPA, that's who certifies us, the agents, their offices are down here in DC. I'm right outside of DC. And you would come down and be like a 3-day seminar and, meet people that were going to be in your class, learn stuff from the PA, go through a whole kind of conference. And then the third day you go ahead and take your test. But, the pandemic kind of messed up a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So the year I got certified, 2022, it was actually virtual. But man, I locked in. I was studying for maybe a year and a half, honestly, looking through so many different organizations who gave study questions and practice tests, and getting together with groups, and met a couple people online who were, working to become an agent as well. Some older than me, some younger than me, same age. But hit the ground running, man. And when I got certified, again, I was still reaching out to some agents and trying to work with somebody or just kind of
Get your foot in the door.
get my foot in the door, because it's a tough career to just hop in alone. One, with a lack of resources, or just a lack of experience. You don't know what you don't know. So, and also what kind of puts you behind the ball as well is the test is only offered in July once a year. You're not going to get your results until late September, early October.
Ooh.
And, this is 2022. So even let's just ignore NIL and pretend like this is before NIL, you know what I mean? So the actual rules were by the NFLPA, you couldn't start recruiting and talking to players until the last game of their junior year of college.
Okay.
So again, I'm coming in now in October, and I'm trying to compete against agents with more resources, more experience, but they've also been, this is this
Talking to
kid's
people.
senior year. They've been talking to him for a full year now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just coming in trying to, have some success, and reaching out to some agents. My dog, my right hand, Alex, he works for Prozone. He's the CEO of it. Also a practicing attorney out there in Pennsylvania. And he was a great mentor, but somebody who was really willing to bring me on board and not only show me some things, but like just kind of let me do my thing as well. Like he's seen how ambitious I was. He's seen that this is really what I wanted to do. And I think it was a mutual benefit for both of us of like, hey, I think we can really both help each other. You know what I mean? And been on board since then. Like I said, I'm an MBA. He's a JD, and man, we go hand in hand, man. Yin and yang. That's my dog.
You you spoke. I want to back up a little bit because I think your journey is so unique, but it's also something that's common because after we play, and when I spoke to other coaches on this pod, it was, man, sometimes you had that dark time in between playing and then getting into the workforce, or you couldn't see
Mm-hmm.
yourself outside of football. Your process to transition to post career or post playing happened a little bit sooner as you were still playing. And for so
Swear.
many people, that doesn't happen. But can you go back to your playing days or that process of transitioning from out of playing and really dive into the agent like trail? Like how do you, like, what school do you need to do? What classes do you need to take? What does it
Gotcha.
entail with law or um,
Gotcha.
internships? Like, what is that process really like to go from undergrad to master's to actually sitting in your seat?
Bro, like you said, I kind of have in some aspects, if I wasn't to be an agent, I have a really unique kind of way to get into it. But as far as just a person with a day-to-day job, I have a pretty common, you know what I mean, kind of trail.
Hmm.
But when I first stepped away, and again, you don't know what you don't know. So to answer your first point, like kind of the process and what guys should do. If I was talking to a kid right now and he was like, "Yeah, I want to be an agent," what should I do? Well, first, go get an undergrad degree, business, marketing, in any of those. Like it really doesn't matter. And then you also, again, to be certified with the NFLPA, if that's what you're trying to do. Because currently, right now, to be an NIL agent, there actually isn't any regulations, and that's a whole another conversation. But if you're trying to be certified, NFL or NBA, you do have to get a postgraduate degree. So then either a law degree or MBA. But I would also tell kids that, or an aspiring agent, that proximity is important too.
Okay.
So if you could go somewhere to undergrad that has legitimate prospects,
Okay.
legitimate players, and actually start to be around those guys, see how they operate, especially if you were never a player, but see their day to days, be actually be friends with these people, but also if you can start to provide services early, you know what I mean? Like again, hindsight's 2020. I was just having a conversation with my dad the other day, but if I could do it all again, I probably let football go after my senior year of high school. I probably, chalk it. Again, we from up there in Pittsburgh. They got the branch campuses, whether it's Pitt or Penn State. I go do one of those for 2 years,
Yeah.
and then either go to Pitt or Penn State, for my junior and senior year, and get a undergrad and an MBA from one of those schools around legitimate prospects. You know what I mean? And even in that situation, you mess around, you try to be a grad assistant for the football team or whatever the case may be, but
Basketball,
just
whatever sport you're playing.
anything, you know what I mean? Just get yourself in sports and start to see, because that was also important for me during my undergrad. Even if I was at Seton Hill, we had a great sports management director. So he had us doing a lot of stuff. We would come down to Pitt and, work game day events. We would go to Duquesne and do some ticketing sales and stuff like that. But also what was great about him was he had us doing something called informational interviews. Every semester we have to do 2 of them.
Okay.
And, reaching out to people in different jobs that were aligned with the class that we were in. So it could have been sports marketing, it could have been sports communications, sports law, whatever the case may be, but reaching out to people who already have jobs in those fields.
Mm-hmm.
And he had such a vast network himself that he would, put notes out there to people and let them know, hey, I'll have students of mine reaching out to you and da 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 da. So, we were always going to get answered for the interviews. But the networking is also important too. Some of those I didn't take as serious, especially for the classes. I never wanted to be a broadcaster or anything, so I didn't care about sports communication. Like my parents were thought of me at times, but I never really saw myself doing that. So whatever. And even some of the marketing, okay, whatever. But the sports law, for sure, I was locked in. There was an agent I had reached out to, and then there was a sports lawyer I had reached out to, and interviewed both of those guys. And when they told me about their day-to-days, like I already knew what an agent was at that point, but I was really like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm trying to do. So for sure, if I'm advising a young person trying to get into that, it would be to, go to a school with legitimate players and, not only try to see how the business of college sports goes, but, can you provide services to those guys right now? And man, services you could be the campus barber, you could be the shoe plug,
Your
you
equipment
could
manager.
be anything, bruh. Absolutely anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
When I went to school, we had there was a girl around the team, and she was the equipment manager, like an assistant. But one of her best friends from high school was one of the top prospects that had come into my class with me,
for sure.
and she literally was just being around the team. And now that I look back through it, I was like, oh, she's just being equipment manager because she ain't got nothing else to do. But what she was really doing was setting up her career in the future. And not only was she able to represent her best friend coming out of high school, who was a top prospect, who had a great career, she was also able to funnel that into, okay, she knows all these players now. So like, and she knows the basketball team. She's really like was popular into volleyball, and now she knows everybody in sports while she was just connected and she knew how to work the room. So that that story about how you would go back and then you would be connected to the game or you would be connected to sports through different ways is very powerful because I don't think a lot of players are
Proximity.
thinking about that. Because like in sports, it's first of all to go to college and play ball, you're a small percentage. Like think of all the high schools that are out there. Think of all the
Mm-hmm.
people that we played with in high school that didn't even get the opportunity to play a snap in college.
Right.
So getting to college and playing a sport is a big feat in itself, and it's a small percentage. Even to go to the next level of the NFL, it's an
It's
even
unreal.
bigger percentage. So knowing
Mm-hmm.
that, but there's thousands of jobs that are around it, and you may find your niche in a sport, but it's not connected to actually playing on the field or being a coach. Because like
Exactly.
I feel like sometimes our mindset is narrow when it comes to how you can be successful in sports. Whether it be, okay, I'm gonna play and I'm gonna go to a high level NFL, or I'm gonna coach at a high level, right? But you can also be or analyst. You can be an equipment manager. You can do tickets, marketing. Now you
Hmm.
can run a social media page or a YouTube for a team. You could
You
be
work in apparel.
yeah.
You work for
You could
Nike. You work for Jordan.
or you could be a what is it called, a logistics manager, and you just set up all
Yeah.
the travel locations of it. There's so many inner workings of a team, of a sports team, that I don't think kids know about. That you can still be around sport, but then you can explore this other medium that you like, whether it be art, whether it be music, whether it be content, whether it be media. Um, so I think our conversation is powerful because it shows like, okay, yes, this is sport. Yes, this is about football, but at Film to Field, we're talking about developing the whole player, and some of our players may not make it. As hard as they work, as hard as they try,
Sure.
they may not make it to the NFL. But what are options for them that are running parallel to their sport? Um, and with that, my next question to you is like, what skills from football, and this can be for any sport, but what skills from football transfer into your work as an agent?
Competition for sure. Um, and I mean, I could go crazy, but I'm trying to think of some of the ones that stick out the most. Competition, discipline, and I kind of want to say dealing with rejection. I mean, that's kind of a byproduct of competition as well.
Mhm.
Um, but I think competition, discipline, and working past rejection. You know what
Yeah,
I mean, or failure. What some people may look at as failure. But a lesson, just a delay in the inevitable if you keep going after it, but your mindset behind that, like through hard times, I really feel like, bruh, some of them spring ball practices, the winter workouts, and you know, all of camp, fall camp, like really got you reevaluating, as a player, like, bro, it's 5 in the morning, and I know people that was out last night on campus until 3 or 4. And I could either want to be a part of that, or I know I got to go to bed early because we got morning runs and we got film right after that, and then I got class, and you know what I
yeah.
mean. So just
Time
you
management
know,
and priorities.
it's crazy. It's crazy, bro. I feel like for sure those kind of help me. Um, but my job in itself is not where it differs though. And sometimes I also have to tweak and adjust. Is it's not the same every day. You know what I mean? We might have practice, so that discipline and the workouts and whatever the case may be. So like you're used to structure, but bro, it's a roller coaster. My day to day, like no 2 days actually look the same. Like we were talking prior, and I'm like, I took a meeting today after I got a haircut on the Zoom in the car, laptop out, then had to drive into the office. And, I'm in the office for a couple hours, but I popped in and out to take a few calls while I'm there. And no day looks the same,
Hmm.
which as I've been doing it now, I love that. Like I can't get enough of that. Even with coming from all the structure and the discipline, I'm like, bro, I have no idea what's about to happen today, and like I like that.
Yeah,
I
being
like that.
flexible.
Swear. And
I
now
yeah,
I'm still sharpening that tool because there's times I want to stay in line structure, and the misses is a lot more spontaneous than I am, I'll say. Um, so I be trying to battle that as well.
yeah. Sometimes I got to stop myself from work mode and like switch it to do something that's like not in my plan for the day. But that
Right.
the thing I know most about sports and then working in, because now I'm a teacher, but you see people not deal with adversity well. Like it's
Yeah.
almost like when something doesn't go, or you know what the biggest one I'm realizing is the teamwork. Like when I played football, football is literally the ultimate team sport, but you can get this from a lot of sports that you could play. You could tell the difference between a person who grew up in sport and a person who didn't, because there's
Yeah.
some decisions for the leader may the leader may make a decision and then we have to move accordingly. And it's not about my personal beliefs or it's not how I feel in the situation or it's not even about what the leader has said. It's the reason behind it. So like in football, if the head coach says that we got to run 10 hills, like we're running 10 hills. Or if I have to block on this play, I want to catch a pass, but I have to run this route to open up my teammate. I just
The
have to
actual
do that.
pass. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like
Yep. Sacrifice.
sometimes things happen on a team that okay, it's for the betterment of the team. Like right now, it's not for me. And I see in the corporate world, people have so much of an issue with something not being about them, and they can't see the team aspect behind it. I think that's the biggest thing I took from playing sport. Like, luckily, the teachers I teach with, a lot of them have played sports, and one of my best friends and mentors, he's the other third grade teacher across the hall. He's our math teacher. He played like hockey and basketball and stuff growing up, and you can tell like sometimes the principal will make a decision and me and him were just like, yo, let's just rock. Let's rock. Like we're not
Mhm.
complaining about it. We're not sitting around and talking about it. The coach said we're moving this way, so let's just move. Like, and if I have an issue with it, I'll clear it up later. But I think that was one of the biggest things from sport that I got that you don't see. Like you can tell the difference in your working environment. Now, luckily, with football and sports and agents and representation, you see a lot of people that are coming from that environment. But I'm guessing you see some bad too. And my next question to you is what are some misunderstandings or what are some things that it's not so much of the brighter side of the agent or the player representation world without like
That's
sharing any names or divulging any information? What are some things that people don't expect to happen that kind of caught you off guard and that you learned from?
mm, so I'll answer the first part as far as like misunderstandings or what people may assume, like and kind of what you alluded to is like the glitz and the glam, that
Yeah,
everything's
yeah.
$1 million deal and there's a whole bunch of money coming in and you're hardly doing anything. And again, it's the total opposite. I was having a conversation with a guy who is interested in being an agent, and we were talking about recruiting and going to see players and things like that. And I was mentioning to him, man, like there's a point in time where I've driven in total it was 14 hours because it was from Maryland to Ohio. I was recruiting a kid at Bowling Green, and me and my lady drove up there uh, at night, 7 hours, went to the game. I literally got to see this kid and his family. Now I spoke to him and his family a couple times prior, but I literally got to see them, get some FaceTime, talk to them for 15 minutes
Hmm.
after the game. He hasn't even take his pads off and stuff yet, so he's kind of antsy anyway, and not really trying to, as be as open and all of that. Talk to my mom, my dad, whatever the case may be. But it was 15 minutes, and it was cold as hell. It was in November, and we literally stopped at like a Waffle House and hopped right back on the road
So it's
and
over 8 hours
drove.
of work for 15 minutes.
Yep, yep. So I end up not signing that guy either. We made it down to the final presentation. It was us and another agency. Me and Alex drove back up to Ohio to go present to him and his dad. And he ended up going another route. But I mean, it was a learning experience for me. But again, also that delayed gratification of, and how do you deal with that adversity of, hey, and the kid himself was super respectful, came from a great family. So he even, gave us the respect to having another conversation of, hey, I am going to go in another route. I
Yeah.
appreciate everything you guys have been doing, and I always like to try to get data points during those tough conversations of, bro, I appreciate that, but
Where did we go wrong
what
at, or what could we
yeah,
do
what
better?
made you choose them? What could we do better? And just trying to get some advice or get some data points so I can add and adjust and be better in the next situation. But for sure, I think a misunderstanding is everything is all glitz and glam, and a bunch of money coming in. And then was it the second part? What was the second part?
What are some things like red flags, or I wouldn't say red flags. What are some lowlights that also happen? Like you kind of hit on both of them with the misunderstandings and the lowlights as well. But if you have another story of something that you didn't expect coming from being an agent.
I mean, it again, it's an extra. I'll keep pointing back to competition,
Hmm.
and tough conversations and rejection because they are just a part of it. All three of those are part of it. Again, you're talking about 32 teams. If we're strictly talking about the NFL, you're talking about 32 teams. 1,500 to 1,800 players. Like in the world. Like that's it. Like
Yeah.
it's a very niche industry, small industry, like we were alluding to, as far as the numbers keep shrinking from Pop Warner all the way up to the league. But it's extremely competitive to play and then to also be a person of business around it.
Yeah.
Those jobs are far and few. So with that, again, human people are people. There's going to be some shady things that happen. You know what I mean? People who are dishonest, people who are misleading, whatever the case may be. So some of that I've seen. And again, it's situations like that that just cause for you to just be a little smarter, and adjust a little differently. For example, have a conversation with somebody and on potentially doing business together, and not a player, but somebody in kind of in the brand space, in the business space. And if you don't know, again, you don't know. So prior to having them kind of take some information or take ideas I had, now moving forward, when I have certain conversations, even if it's the first conversation, I may ask that person to sign an NDA, just to, hey, let's make sure all of this stuff is sealed up and I'm doing my stuff the right way. And, asking for things like that, and someone rejects it, that kind of lets you know what type time it is anyway,
Okay. And it's not
so
disrespect, it's business because, I
at
got to
all.
protect myself as well. Okay.
Again, back to those tough conversations. Hey, it ain't personal. It's business. Like it's a part of it. I worked hard to be here, and I'm still growing, still ascending. But I care about this. I
Hmm.
care about my license. I care about doing the right thing by my clients, and I care about um, just showing the next brand, the next group of people, especially kids out of Pittsburgh, like you were alluding to. There's a different way to be involved in sports at the highest level and not be a player or a coach.
Yeah.
That's extremely important to me.
I mean, so you hit on it completely, and I know like we've grown up together forever. Um, just like a big wow moment in the podcast for anybody who's watching that don't know, like we are childhood friends. We grew up
20 years.
20 years strong,
It's
man. This
crazy
has been
because we
rocking.
we 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 old as hell. Even to be able to say that now, like it's a little wild. Like 20
20 years is a
years.
long friendship. Yeah,
I have vivid memories of 20 years ago.
we met middle school. I think sixth grade is when I started coming around, riding the bus
Was
home around y'all
was
block.
no older than 12 or 13.
And it was just from there. But uh I know you personally, and I'm able to say like you've always been a kind, genuine person, respectful person. And for me, seeing some of the evils that are out there, it was kind of like a shock. I'm gonna be honest with you. It was almost like that's how people are moving, and they don't have
Yeah,
any shame in doing it that way. So to hear you say like, "Hey, it's happening at the highest levels," it's like
for
the
sure.
stories that you see in TV shows and movies, and you think like, "Yo, is the world really this corrupt? Are people really moving that sleazebally?" And it's
Yeah,
almost like, yeah, it's probably worse, but You learn that as
But
you get older.
it's crazy because, like you said, as I'm getting older, I always, be joking around. Is like, do movies mirror life, or does life mirror, vice
Yeah,
versa, like
yeah,
whatever the case may be? And it's like, nah, bro. Like, especially when you talk about the whole agency industry and everything. There's movies, there's shows, all that stuff. I know everybody always talks about Jerry Maguire, but if you want to really kind of realistic picture of what it's like, if you ever seen Ballers with The Rock,
yeah. Right, it would do the
it was
Rock.
it
It
was
was on
yeah,
HBO Max not too
HBO.
long ago. Okay.
Yeah, like that's a real good look at it. Again, every day is different, and again, he's having a lot of success in doing it at the highest level on the show as well. But you know, a constant, just person that has to find solutions, provide services, be a mentor, and again, handle competition, tough conversations, rejection, all of it, man. I think that's a great
How
one
do
for
you how
sure.
do you maintain your integrity, your character, and your values through all that? Because I feel like your environment is such a strong influence on who you become. If you're around some of that stuff, how do you just maintain the sincerity behind it?
Yeah. um, I, I think kind of like you said, bro. Like we've known each other for a long portion of our lives, but one of the main, traits you just mentioned about me is I'm kind, bro. Just naturally, like
Mm.
I'll treat the CEO the same way I'll treat the janitor. Like that's the way we was raised, and that's what we come from. I go to your house, I say hello to your mom and yes ma'am, and you come over, you speak the same way to my mom and my pops. So like I think it's keeping all of that stuff
Yeah,
like at the forefront. Like you can't um it's not only that, but this is also really truly what I want to do with my life, with as a career. So it's the optimism and the, also sometimes the crazy belief in myself, like it's going to happen. Things
yeah,
are going to if I keep putting my feet in front of each other, like things are going to turn out the way I need them to. But then while I'm doing that, when I'm going up against a rejection, when I, look across the aisle and see what some other people are doing, and that may go against what everything I know and everything I do, is still believing in myself and, having that integrity and like really just understanding like, hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat as well.
yeah.
They might do that over there and that works for them. And again, back to tough conversations, it's a real thing that us as agents on the management side and the representation side, we are not gonna, we're working with players and trying to represent players, but they're people, and just every single person in the world does not match up with every other single person in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's times where we're going to mesh really well with a player and his or her family, and there's times where we just may not,
Hmm.
and that's okay too. Back to optimism again. There's 1,800 guys in the league. 250 just got drafted. Another 200 went undrafted. And so again, reminding myself that next year there's going to be those same numbers, and the following year there's going to be those same numbers. And
Hmm.
to get your start, it takes one. I've had a few now, but it literally takes one. So it's just that optimism, man.
This new one.
And yeah,
And that's that belief in yourself. I seen it as a clip on Instagram at this point, but I got a son now that we be watching all the Disney Pixar, and Cars is one of my favorite series because it talks about the life of a sports player. But in the first or in the third one, man, the the trainer asked him like, "How did you know you could do it?" And then he was just like, "I never believed that I couldn't. Like, I never
that's
saw
right.
it." And that's something that I definitely struggle with because there's been times where I've been like, yo, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can coach. I don't know if I can play. But then just that grit and reminding yourself, like, no, you're putting the work in, and
Yeah,
that's what bred the confidence. Okay, no, you're studying, you're working out the way you need to, you're game planning the way you need to. Even when it comes to teaching, though, you're setting your lesson plans up, and you're really looking at and studying the concept that you're teaching that week, or just as a parent Because sometimes you're like, yo, I don't know if I'm being a good dad, but it's like, no, you're putting the work in. You're at bedtime, you're at bath time, you're reading the stories, you're teaching the lessons, and it'll click eventually. And you just need that one. You just need that
Swear,
one
bro.
moment. I kind of want to get into Prozone a little bit, man. I
Let's
got to
get it.
shout y'all out because whenever I went to Indianapolis with you all, I want to say it was 2 or 3 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
I want to say
yeah.
it was maybe it was
It's
like three
two.
years ago. 2 or 3 years ago at this point, we went
Mm-hmm.
to Indianapolis. I had a coaches clinic that I attended, and you all were working the NFL draft, and I was
Combine.
or the combine, and I was able to talk to
Mm-hmm.
you all. You guys were respectful. You welcomed me in with open arms. I really appreciate that. But can you speak to Prozone as an agency and like a little bit of the history and what you all do for players?
Yeah. Um, Full service, man. Everything from, like I said, I'm an MBA. Alex is a JD, so everything football, from training to contract negotiations, to then stepping off the field and marketing and branding. But also, even on the legal side of prenups, wills, any kind of LLC or tax stuff, and business setups as well. But we do it all, man. And then you also talk about being a mentor, being a friend. We have a fiduciary responsibility with the NFLPA to ethically do things the right way, and have a certain standard in the way we do things. So that's also important to us. Like I said, myself and Alex have worked really hard to acquire the knowledge we have as well as the certifications we have, and we don't want to jeopardize those for anybody,
Yeah.
so to make sure we're always doing things the right way and in line of with the rules, that we're going to be able to do that. But we are a full service agency. We have football clients, a couple FIBA basketball clients, some baseball, college clients as well, and especially football being our main sport. We also have a pickleball player who's a beast. His name is Zane Ford.
I didn't
He's a
even think
dog, bro.
I didn't even know pickleball had representation like that.
Hey,
It's
bro,
growing like that.
he's a dog. Well, they have crazy kind of similar to when you think about like NASCAR and racing and
All the
a car
sponsorships and everything
itself,
around it.
all crazy sponsors and the same thing. It's not that
What?
there's swear,
I'm
swear,
thinking
bro,
about
swear.
pickleball as a little side activity for the seniors on Sunday. You feel me? Like I didn't think.
I'm telling you, no, there's global tournaments for pickleball, bro. Like it's
What?
legit. It's the real deal for sure. But football being, the bread and butter, the main sport from high school all the way up to the NFL, we have about 18 clients, active clients. And Prozone itself has had a few draft picks as high as a fourth rounder. We had a seventh rounder as well, and then we've had a couple free agent guys and practice squad players. Um, but man, it's been a grind. It's been a grind. Like I said, Alex had already started the company prior to me coming, so he's been an agent now going on 12 years, and then I've been one for going on 5.
Mhm.
And then what else? What else is there? Um,
So some of the things you're saying, like it's just that continuous grind. Because I mean, you guys said you had some undrafted free agents, you had some seventh rounders, you had some fourth rounders. It seems like y'all are just working your way up to the draft, and then that one guy is coming down the line here in a couple of years.
for
Um,
sure, man. For sure.
and
And
then it
we
just
and we kind
yeah.
of we kind of with so when you talk about adjusting and adapting, but when the rules had kind of changed for NIL, and that was now looked at as an opportunity, then we kind of started to foster those relationships a little bit better and a little bit sooner. You know what I mean, and really tried to look right within of, hey, we're both from Pittsburgh, Western PA. Like this is a hot spot in itself. And let's really kind of lock in right here at home. Again, I'm down here in the DC area, so I'm getting my roots and getting stuff down here and, hitting the pavement hard and making connections here. But we was also like, yo, let's really get it on lock at home. And,
Hmm.
home will take care of us. We take care of home, it'll take care of us.
That's a beautiful thing. Even though you don't live here, it's still paying homage to the city and everything, and trying to do your best
Sure.
to, uplift and represent players the right way. Um, so you talked about uh, getting players a little bit earlier, especially with the era of NIL and everything. So let's just say, scenario wise, I'm a high school athlete, I'm a high school football player, and my family is thinking about representation through an agency.
Yeah.
How early should I start that process? And what type of questions should I be asking when I look to vet different agencies and different representation?
So is when we talk about the first question as far as how early, realistically, it really depends case by case. But I would say now, when offers are rolling in,
Okay.
especially when you talk about group of five and just division 1, when you talk about division 1 offers, starting to come in, multiple offers starting to come in, you should, it doesn't mean it's time right away to, hey, let's go out and get an agent, but at least as a family, you guys should kind of set up your own plan and or seek some advice on the process itself and how to, work with schools and talk to schools and what you should be looking out for and things like that.
Where's that advice
um
come from?
oh, from us.
Okay. So you
Yeah, yeah,
should be
yeah.
going to agent. Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, and I mean, again, here's the thing: the two are going to find themselves anyway. We're out looking for good players and looking for, good legitimate prospects and guys who, have offers, or hey, they may be kind of under the radar, because again, that's as a smaller boutique agency, where we might not have the opportunity to get every single player, but again, location, Pittsburgh being a hot spot, really just trying to develop that right there at home. Um, they're there. There's talent. There's talent right there at home. A lot of it. So for sure, as offers are rolling in, you need to start just asking questions, and we're always advising our guys, even to ask us questions about the things we're doing. We want to, walk them through a lot of processes. Some people may not be as interested in hearing, hey, this is what we plan on doing for you. This is what we, just the small intricate stuff. Like, of course, everyone wants to know, services and things you'll provide them, but just, every little detail. No, you're going to sit on this call with us and the financial advisors. We know exactly how much you're getting. They're going to run you through every single thing about how much you're setting aside for taxes. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to do to max out your IRA.
Oh wow.
Every single thing. Here's a little bit of money to set aside to actually pay yourself. Budgeting, from every single dollar. You know what I mean? So something as simple as that. We want them to be a part of. Ask a lot of questions when it comes to their brand and who they are away from football. Obviously, guys got a highlight reel and their huddle film or whatever that shows your on the field stuff and what you can do as a player. But your brand, who you are besides football,
Okay.
again, helping them develop that and cultivate business relationships that align with their own brand. So it's a two-pronged thing of actually figuring out, hey, what are your interests? Is it being on the grill? Are you interested in medical stuff? Or are you, anything, bro? Do you play the piano? Do you want to be a streamer? Whatever it could be, that has nothing to do with football. And maybe it is something that has something to do with football, but it's just not actually playing. We
Yeah.
want to help you. We want to help you develop that.
What's So you went. So you talked about hitting the pavement, scouting players and looking for potential clients and all of that. I want to tie it back into Film to Field. So we're all about player development, football education, and the base of the business is around film grading and making a player look as best as they can on the film, as well as learning from the mistakes uh, and the victories that they make on the film. So, like, what makes a kid like light up you got y'all the agency's radar, and like what makes it easier to advocate for them when you're talking to coaches, scouts, and different organizations?
The the first part. Actually, I'll go to the second part. What makes it easier to advocate for them is actually having a relationship with the kid and their family. You know what I mean? Like I said, not only do we have a fiduciary responsibility, but I've had multiple conversations with these people. I've been in their home. I went to their son's graduation. I was there, at the hospital when some stuff happened. I every little thing you could think of, I've been a part of this person's life, and obviously up until when I met them, but I've been an intricate part of their life. So now when they're not in my face and I'm doing business on their behalf, it's like,
The
hey,
representation precedes them.
yeah, hey, bro, I'm like even more motivated. Not only because this is a friend that I'm working for, but they've entrusted us. They've given us the responsibility to, go out and work on their behalf. So, and again, for us, it's not trying to work with every single person, every single player, but the people and the families that we align with. So
Okay.
if it is an inquisitive family who asks questions and want to know everything, if it is a family who, isn't chasing, dollars, like money isn't the motivation, and their son's development and getting to the next level and being around a great coaching staff and being around a great program, if things like that are important to a kid and a family, then we probably are going to align. You know what I mean? Like if they're loyal people, if they really work hard. I want to, when my guys have training and stuff like that, I want to go pull up on them. I want to see how they're doing, how they're working. And that's stuff I do in the recruiting process. And I have a wide network of coaches, trainers, other agents, who I'm gonna get a second opinion on, guys, too. So even when you do now, part of your first question, break it down to the film.
Yeah.
um, I think it's important for me to collaborate in a lot of the stuff that I do. I provide resources for my guys. I set expectations for them. Um, but I also work with people who can help them and service them in the best way. And it might be in things that I'm not that good at. Again, yeah, I played D2 ball. We did watch film and go over that stuff. So, there's things I know how to do and break down film. But I'm gonna call one of the homies that's a scout
Yeah.
and hop on the phone with him, and I'm gonna send him a kid's film, and hey, what do you think about this? And then hey, I'm gonna actually take notes on what he's saying. Of there's a terminology that just your average Joe might talk about sports and football specifically and stuff like that, but nah, like I'm gonna hear exactly how he's talking
Okay.
about this player and what this player needs to do to get better, what this player is doing that's good. But, simple things that they say is like, bro, in the first couple of plays of a guy's highlight tape, like, I need to see real deal traits and, the almost that it factor, in those first couple of plays, you need to see it. Like they need to be highlights. They don't need to just be half-ass plays or whatever the case may be, like the stuff that pops out, the stuff that looks like this guy's playing against kids that are way younger than him, but they're actually on the same level. Like he's just leaps and bounds better than the competition.
Okay.
So I like to, and again, these are the guys who are in the rooms with general managers. They are pounding on the table for players in there region. Scouts have regions that they cover. So a guy might only be on the East Coast or the Southeast or the West Coast or the Midwest or whatever, and he has a certain amount of schools he may cover. And hey, bro, got this kid that's in your location. Da da da. What you think about him? I'm talking to him. Is this a kid I should actually pursue? Is this a kid I should put an actual financial investment in? Like it, talk to me about the stuff, is really important for me to have those resources for myself.
That's good, man. It's also just commendable of you saying like, because some people say, "Oh, I got all the answers. Come to me for everything." But
Nah, bro.
at the core of a lot of what we do is teamwork. Again, going back to what we do in sports.
Right.
Like I'm a running back, or I'm a receiver, but I can't do my job without the quarterback. And the quarterback can't do his job without the offensive lineman. But sometimes
Mhm.
the running back has to go to the offensive lineman and say, "Hey, how are you blocking this?" Or the receiver has to go to the quarterback and say, "What are you seeing on this play?" So that we can match. And then as you get into the corporate world or into the agency world or the player representation, you say, okay, we have a player. I'm thinking about going. Do you think he has the talent or do you think he has the film and the traits to go to the next level? I don't know what not to say I don't know what I'm looking at, but I think he does. Can you give it a second opinion or can you have a little bit more detail that I can bring back to the table when I'm advocating for
Mhm.
this kid? Can coaches get representation?
Yeah, yeah. Coaches have agents.
Wow,
Yes,
that's
sir.
the because I know we talk about players all the time and who's actually playing them,
Mhm.
but coach, I didn't know coaches could actually get representation as well.
And I got some friends who we've had a couple coaches on staff before, but I got some friends who like kind of specialize in that. Like that's really all they do. One of my guys, Christian Carter, I actually went to college with him in the undergrad, but he's in that space and does really really well. And oh, again, you met bro when we was up at
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. So for sure, coaches have agents. Coaches have agents, and maybe down the line, I may be interested in getting in that side of it, but I like the player representation side of it right now, and that's what piques my interest the most.
so I'm a player in a family, and I pick Prozone, right? I put Prozone on Wednesday. How does my life change on Thursday, or does it,
Yeah.
or like is it? Because I'm thinking about going through and you have like this big okay now I'm signed with an agent, I'm getting all these sponsorships,
Hmm.
I got my NIL check and I'm getting Nike deals and all. How does my life change and what do I need to focus on after that signing day?
Well, prior to that, one, here's the thing: any kids who are watching, any kids who are listening, they shouldn't be signing with an agency who hasn't told them a plan that they have for them.
Okay.
And again, going back to being inquisitive, asking questions, ask how the things they are telling you they're going to do, how are they going to do them, and then if they've done them before, is extremely important. So even prior to us signing somebody, we're running through a presentation to them, telling them a plan we have for them. Again, managing realistic expectations for them of, hey, and then I'm gonna take it as if we're talking about an NFL prospect, a kid coming out of college, going on to the league, but we're telling them, hey, every single scout I've spoken to is telling me you're gonna go undrafted. So whoever's telling you you're going in the first round, I'm telling you, they are lying to you. And you can, at that point again, tough conversations, but you can choose to, follow that how you may. But this is what all of these guys are telling me. So again, setting those expectations, having realistic expectations for them on the, sponsorship, on the branding, on the marketing side. There's only a certain amount of guys who are, gonna just automatically demand marketing dollars and endorsements and stuff like that. You're talking about your quarterbacks, you're talking about your touchdown scores, and some defenders and edge rushers, whatever the case may be.
Okay.
But if it ain't a receiver, if it ain't a quarterback, I'm not saying that guys who don't play those positions don't get endorsements, because they absolutely do. But what I'm saying is just the snap, hey, you're a football player and we want you in our brand. It normally goes to those kind of guys. And even in today's age, it's getting smaller and smaller, where brands want real alignment with the players that they're choosing to, be ambassadors, do deals with, whatever the case may be. Where the brands aren't just chucking out a bunch of money anymore.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Peloton, and you're a fitness influencer. That's real alignment. You know what I mean? Like you've already been working on your at-home bike, and you're looking to get a free bike from us, and then you want a discount code, and all that stuff makes actual sense.
Okay.
Oh, you're an everyday coffee drinker, and this is a new startup company coffee, and da 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 da. And they're also super healthy and a bunch of stuff that's not gonna go against your diet and your health restrictions for football and training, and it's gonna help you with recovery. That's legitimate, alignment. Like, that's real. There's some things that are low hanging fruit and easy, but it's not cookie cutter either,
Yeah.
with us. So when that family first gets with us and signs with us, not only are they going to know the detailed plan of what we have for them from throughout that entire rookie year, from the time they play their last game to training, where they're going to their training facility, to do combine prep, plans when they get drafted, plans if they go undrafted, plans if none of those happen, and now we have to look towards the UFL or the CFL. Financial plans, again, sitting down with the financial advisor. Hey, this is the rookie minimum this year. This is how much you're getting paid. If you play, these are the teams we've been talking to in the most, and these are their state taxes. So if you play here, this is how much you should be actually taking home. If you play here, da 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 da. But we give a presentation that is fully, again, full service, but showing that full rookie year as well as their first 4 years in the league, all the way up through their second contract. And again, when I talk about some of the guys that we have had for Prozone, two of them specifically, one, his name is Nolan Carroll. He was a cornerback with the Eagles, a 7-year vet. But actually, after he retired, came on to the agency to work with us in a client services and client mentorship kind of capacity. And I think it says a lot about the good work we did for him, but also the relationship that, after he's done. And he lives in Florida, again, a 7-year NFL vet. So he's doing well for himself. He's all good. He
Yeah.
doesn't need to be working, but he's a high school coach at a big time school down there, and he talks to kids for us on the regular. When we have guys in Florida, they stop and see him. But we try to give our potential clients a full scope of what their career is going to look like, and every kind of plan we have for it on the
So
field
that,
and
I
off.
mean, that answered the question and then some, because I just said what's going to happen tomorrow, and you all said that you're going to give me a whole 7-year plan of what you're going to do for me and what it looks like as a member or a client that signs on with your service.
Yeah,
Katie, I appreciate your time today. I got one more question. It's a closing tradition on Film to
but
Field Case Studies, and that question is, over your career or over your life, what is a book that has influenced you or given you some type of information that has changed your perspective or helped you out?
um, The Alchemist.
It's a good one. That's
Yeah,
definitely a good
The
one.
Alchemist, bro. I love that book. I read it multiple times, at different stages of my life. I read it in college. I actually, the first time I read it in college, and then I also recently read it again like a year and a half ago. And while I was studying for my test, I was reading it as well, studying
Hmm.
for my agency test. But um, just about being optimistic, man, about having, your own personal legend is something they talk about in the story as well. Like your own story, and chasing what's for you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, regardless of the different things you may face and what you have to overcome. But also being where your feet are at, right where I'm at, being okay that, hey, at some point I keep taking these steps forward, I'm going to reach, what I'm after. But right while I'm here,
I
instead
might
of
as well make the most of it.
looking forward or trying to look back, I'm right where I'm at, trying to learn as much, be a service as much to others as I could, and just be good peoples, So that's definitely one that sticks out. I just started Relentless, which is a book by
My boy just the last interview we just did, that was a story that came up as well.
by
Yeah, by Tim
Tim
Grover.
Grover.
He's the trainer
He
for Michael Jordan, D Wade,
and
and
Kobe.
Kobe.
So just yeah, I've been super tapped in with that joint and trying to pick up some tidbits. I'm only a couple chapters in, but that I already could tell like that's a good one for
That
sure.
book
I
is
know
came up multiple times for sure.
I know I'm gonna have to keep going back to that. And I like to underline stuff and highlight stuff. So the same thing, and that's the last time I just picked up The Alchemist. I was just flipping through it, looking at stuff that I highlighted, and I'm like, oh, let me run this back. Let me run this back. There's some
The
gems in this
Alchemist is a
joint.
good story because there was points where he had a goal and it seemed like he lost himself, but he was so immersed in whatever job or role that he was in, he didn't even understand that he was learning stuff that was going to catapult him into the future.
Help him with that, bro.
And the reason I read The Alchemist my first year coaching because I was just getting out of school. So my first year coaching, I read The Alchemist, and my story of that is whenever I was a special teams coordinator, I took the job serious. I didn't care about being an OC. I didn't care about being a DC. I didn't care about being a head coach. I just wanted to be the best special teams coordinator I could be. And that entailed me watching film. So like during breakdowns, like during the week of game planning,
Mm-hmm.
my head coach at the time gave me a segment. And he was like, well, in high school, I've never had to do that before. I've never given a special teams coach a part of the game. You know how the defense goes, and here's our game plan. Offense goes, here's our game plan. All right, break into your position groups. No, we had special teams is going. And I know that's in the higher levels of high school and college. Special teams is
Mm-hmm.
that important. But the high school level, you don't see that all the time. But he was
Yeah,
like,
sure.
man, in my career, that was one of the first times I gave you a floor, and that's because you earned it because I saw the work that you were putting in. My drills, I was pulling drills like I was doing offense or defense. I knew I studied the techniques of long snappers and placeholders and kickers, and I was making diagrams, and I had a special teams playbook. So whenever I stepped into my new role of being an offensive coordinator and a quarterbacks coach, I just went back to the stuff that I was doing as a special teams coordinator, making play diagrams, having my own playbook, learning the techniques of each position individually. All those things catapulted me into um, the next level. And there was stuff that I learned. There was stuff that I wasn't good at my first year as an OC, but I always go back to those first initial years of being a special teams coordinator. That I was able to take all the things that I did and master where I was at to then be able to ease the transition of your new role. And the Alchemist does that. And you explained it completely in that situation there. I might have to pick that book up. It's been about 8 years since I read
I'll
The
tap back in.
Alchemist. So I might have
Tap
to
back
pick
in,
that one
man.
back up. And then since Relentless has been hinted at twice, I'm probably gonna have to pick that back. I actually listened to that as an audiobook in the car. And it was right after Kobe's death that I picked that one up. So I might have to get back. I might have to get back into that one too. So, but Agent Casey, I appreciate your time. We've been trying to do this for a decent amount of time, and the conversation went longer because we were so connected. So I definitely appreciate you.
My dog. We said I set the record. You got the. This is
It
the
might be,
most
it
time.
might for sure, but the conversation was organic, so I'm okay with it going over. But like you
Oh,
said at the beginning, I'm so proud of you, bro. Seeing you do what you said you were going to do, seeing the grit, seeing the determination, seeing the care that you put into making this a part of your life and a part of your career. it's definitely motivation for me. And then, like you were saying with the players and how social media can be like, you can make your own brand now. You can, okay, yeah, I'm a sports player, but I also like music. So I can connect with this brand and this brand and this brand. And seeing you put everything together, even though it's being like it's slow and you may not see all the things, and I know your goals are a lot more ambitious than where we are right now. Seeing you take the day-to-day processes and of doing it, you know, it's just, I mean, I tell you this all the time, so it's not nothing new, but I'm definitely proud of you.
Appreciate it,
I'm
dog.
definitely happy to see your growth for sure.
It takes a village, bro. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm proud of you too, and I already know, like you said, the goals and the dreams is super ambitious, but I know where we come from. I know the hard work it takes for us to be where we at. You know what I mean? And I don't forget that stuff either. Again, that's all part of my journey. All that is part of my legend as well. So no, dog, I appreciate it, Brad. I'm just getting started, man. I was talking to a kid 2 days ago, and I'm like, bruh, I was interning and working in sports and around sports for 5 years, and I've been certified for 5 years. So you're talking about 10 years of working in sports, bro, and I'm trying to have a 50-year career. So this is just the beginning. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm just getting started, dog.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks for watching this episode of Film2Field Case Studies. If you found value in today's conversation, a summary can be found in the show notes. Subscribe and share it with another athlete or coach, and we'll see you in the next case.